Final Stop Brasil, Chapter 31. The Man of My Dreams, Saidu, Malaga, Spain. A week before I left, Michael had already gone on vacation. Geli, Renata, and I went once again to turn the chocolate city upside down. We danced a lot. Geli and Renata drank a lot of sparkling wine. I never drank alcohol when I went by car, and we flirted hell-bent. I saw some old friends and was in good spirits when happened what I would have not dared to believe in dreams, and certainly not in the chocolate city, where always were the same faces. I saw him in the middle of the dance floor. He was much taller than all the others. However, he caught my attention by the fact that he was completely absorbed in the music, dancing alone and smiling. Never before I saw this striking, good-looking black man in here or anywhere else, who was up to his haircut very different from other Africans. His black curly hair was trimmed to a short, elegant form. For me it was love at first sight. As if hypnotized, I stared at him. Gilly and Renata had also noticed him, of course. I turned my gaze away from him, looking at Renata. I want this man. Renata laughed and replied, "You're crazy." Yeah, I gave back. I made my way through the overcrowded dance floor to the center, where he was still dancing alone. When I moved to the rhythm of the music right in front of him, I realized he was about 1.90 meters tall when I searched his eye contact. In fact, our eyes met, and he smiled at me open and friendly, now moved on to me, so we practically danced together. This went on for a while, and I wondered how it should go further. He made no move to talk to me, and I wouldn't do it either. From time immemorial, I sought out the men, but left them in the belief it was exactly the other way round, and they selected me. Finally, I left him behind on the dance floor and sat frustrated next to Geli and Renata at the bar, where both were flavorful, amused on my expense. "Go and speak to him," Geli advised. From dancing, I became quite hot and left the two cackling hens to go outside for a little fresh air. Of course, I hoped this man would have the same idea, but he didn't. I returned back into the club, and there he was coming towards me, stopped in front of me, and I could feel the butterflies fluttering in my stomach when he smiled at me and said something I didn't understand. Suddenly, I felt like a shy little girl who doesn't know how to behave. Then I gathered all my courage and asked him in English where he came from. This, in turn, he seemed not to have understood, because he shook his head and said something I didn't understand again. It was simply too loud for me to make up even approximately what language he spoke. Helpless, I smiled at him, shrugged my shoulders, and walked towards the bar. Geli was on the dance floor, and Renata met me halfway. "Where were you? Have you progressed with the guy?" "Oh, don't ask me. For once I find my dream man and can't do anything because I don't understand him," I complained. Now I saw him again on the dance floor and wondered what I could do. I wanted to meet this man at all costs. When my two friends wanted to go home, he was still dancing, and then I took the initiative and asked at the bar for a pen and a piece of paper. Paper I could have, but not a pen. "Renata, I need your eyeliner," I asked her, while I dragged her with me on the now emptying dance floor. Cautiously, I pulled him by the arm. He turned to me and gave me a charming smile, flashing white teeth. It always had been a very important point for me, a man having nice teeth. With 2 fingers, I showed him the symbol of telephoning, whereupon he nodded eagerly. "Lend me your back," I ordered Renata, so I could scribble on her back with her eyeliner, my phone number on a piece of paper to pass it into his hand. We girls made our way to the exit. "Do you think he'll call you?" Gilly asked in a rather doubting tone. I hoped so. Very much so. At home, I couldn't get no sleep. Incredibly, it had caught me full, and I saw in my mind this radiant smile of him. Why was such a handsome guy alone? In the Chocolate City, I had watched jealously as the women adored him. What if someone had him towed away after I was gone? I knew nothing about him, not even his name. Since all this wouldn't get me no sleep, I got up and made me coffee. The silence in this great apartment, I hated it. No one was here, and I felt terribly lonely. Like this it would be one day when Michael was an adult and would go his own way. This I became aware of, suddenly. Sure, Kathy and Marcus were also around, but the problems with Mark made me rather keep on distance. Kathy had to give up her job in the Chocolate City, for she had been beaten up several times by jealous Mark. To report him she didn't want. The worst thing was that Mark was not jealous without reason. One morning I passed by and was more than surprised to find a guy in her apartment, one of the guests from Chocolate City. In this entire story, I just felt sorry for little Marcus, who was in the middle of all these problems. He had become a very delicate but also cute little boy. His fine motor skills, which were a bit retarded, functioned now somewhat but now occurred speech problems, and he was not really able to focus on certain things, whether games or television. The pediatrician blamed all on the acute lack of oxygen at birth and advised Kathy to animate Marcus intensively. The doctor was sure Marcus would catch up in time. Bored, I drank coffee, smoked a cigarette, turned on my favorite radio station, Gem FM, lying down in my bathtub. I had filled with plenty of bubble bath. Then I thought about what to do. A basket full of laundry for pressing was waiting for me, but I had absolutely no fancy for this. I turned the radio off, the TV on, hoping I could still sleep a little. I looked around in my super designer room. It was all very extraordinary, but it meant nothing to me. All this doesn't make me happy, was my last insight before I fell asleep. When my phone rang, I was immediately wide awake. It was really him. Actually, I now spoke a few scraps in German to me. The conversation was a disaster, but now I could hear the French accent. Super. I understood too much French, namely nothing. But I didn't give up so quickly. This man I had already adjusted in my head, and so I aimed to make it clear to him I wanted to meet him, what he seemed to understand. In Altona, at the station, at 6 p.m.? Yes, yes, came his answer, and gave me now also his phone number, and I exerted myself to the point to understand the numbers correctly. With a mutual ciao, we hung up. What should we talk about? We couldn't anyway. When Jana returned in the afternoon from her weekend trip home, I was very excited, dressing me up for my rendezvous, and realized, however, for the 1000th time, I was simply too fat. Are you planning something big tonight? Asked my roommate, and I immediately bursted out with the news I had found my dream man and now was going to meet him. That's cool, she cried, honestly pleased. I showed her my outfit and asked uncertainly, can I wear this, or do I look too fat in it? Jana waved and convinced me I looked good and not too fat in my clothes. Good luck and a wonderful evening, she called after me when I was already wafting out the door. At our meeting point, I waited. It was getting 6:30, then 7. Inside the McDonald's at the alternate train station was a payphone, from where I called the number he had given me. The cell phone was out of service. Pretty much at a loss, I ordered a coffee and smoked one cigarette after another. It was getting 7:30, then 8. How should I explain this to Jana? I felt completely idiotic, and she would sure make fun of me. Once again I tried to call him, but nothing. Frustrated and angry, I went home, where Jana already waited for me. "Hey, I think your dream man has called. He speaks French, doesn't he? He asked where you are because he had already been an hour at the bus station when he called." Unbelievingly, I stared at Jana, to break out into hysterical laughter the next moment. Now Jana was staring at me in disbelief. It took a while until I had myself under control. "You speak French?" I asked, still laughing. "So-and-so learned it in school. But tell me, where have you been all this time since you missed each other?" Before my inner eye, I saw myself with my dream man and Jana in the middle, attempting to translate, and again began to cackle. "Then he waited at the bus station, yeah? Wonderful. I've been waiting 50 meters further on at the train station." "Oh, Jana, never start anything with a guy you don't understand." Both of us burst out in silly laughter. Still, I waited the whole night if he would call again. He didn't. Neither this night nor the following days. Several times I tried to call the number he gave me, but when I finally heard a dial tone and shortly afterwards a German man answering, I gave up. With a heavy heart, I tried to draw a line under the subject dream man, but he didn't stop haunting me in my head. When I arrived at the airport Malaga, the sultry heat I already knew from Ibiza and learned to love it struck me at once. Hotel Adriano I saw on one of the signs to a collecting person held in the air. Apart from me, only a couple climbed into the van with the same destination. Always curious about new things and places, I absorbed during the trip all I saw, and what I saw I liked very much. The landscape with the mountains in the background was picturesque. But unfortunately, I didn't see the sea. It was not long until we reached the center of Torremolinos, and shortly after arrived at the hotel. Beach and sea, though I still didn't spot anywhere. The hotel was not too big, but very friendly, and the rooms comfortable. Not to lose time, I went soon on my way to have a look at the city and to search beach and sea. After all, I had been finally promised by the internet catalog beach and sea. First off, I asked at the reception, where they gave me kindly the information: "About 15 minutes from here by foot, across the road and then go straight." So I marched off to the Avenida San Miguel, the pedestrian zone and main shopping mall. I admired the displays of the numerous shops and boutiques, showing prices making me feel like in paradise. The prices in Spanish pesetas were converted into marks so low I planned an extensively shopping day, but for now I still looked for the beach. I passed a cafe, and when I saw all these delicious cakes and ice cream, my mouth became watery. Never I had seen such delicious prepared cakes and ice cream decorative like this. Chocolate ice cream, creamy and with huge bits of chocolate inside. Nut ice cream with entire nuts. Malaga ice cream studded with raisins and. I couldn't help it, but sat down at the free table of an ice cream parlor outside on the pedestrian street. After all, this was part of the nice holidays. Proudly, I gave my order in Spanish and found out soon I might study a little bit more. "Con nada?" asked the friendly service, and I answered just as friendly, "Sí, por favor," strongly believing nata meant nuts. One thing I don't like, and that's whipped cream on top of the ice cream. But that was exactly what I got served, because I ordered it. The 15 minutes had, of course, long been overdrawn to an extent of 3 hours, as I still sat in the same place, watching the back and forth of Spaniards and tourists, the street artists, and I was feeling happy to be alive in the sunshine, and happy about being able to eat an ice cream without a swarm of wasps disputing it. I was on the best way to fall in love with the city. It didn't seem to be all too big, and thus be clearly late. Everywhere friendly smiling faces, not as in Hamburg. I felt free and happy here as never before. Why had I never really considered Spain as a country of emigration? Fear of the language? It was learnable. Fear of my own courage? Ah, yes, the beach. I remembered now again, and went on my way. At the end of the Avenida San Miguel, I was confused though. The road forked, and there were only a few shops here with swimwear and jewelry, etc. For safety, I asked someone and received again the information straight ahead. I looked straight ahead, but saw only countless steps leading somewhere down, and seeming to be endless. Since my accident, falling down the stairs, I felt an insuperable aversion towards staircases. Nevertheless, I climbed down and decided to take a taxi back up. When I finally arrived down, I was rewarded with a magnificent view of the sea and the beach with palm trees. It invited directly for a swim, but I left the swimming suit in the hotel, which had me angry now. I took off my sandals to stick at least my feet into the warm water. This was it, to be living here by the sea, in a paradise, where one could also get by with a little money. I wondered what Michael would say to this idea. He had been just as excited as me about Ibiza. Only after a few meters walk along the beach, I spotted a sign for an elevator. This somebody could have told me. But yes, I had asked for the direction to the beach, and not for a lift. I walked further along the beach, enjoying the mild breeze coming from the sea. In this climate, Michael would certainly no longer suffer from asthma. The sun was going down, but the hustle and bustle along the beach promenade, with its many bars and restaurants, was just about to begin. The beach and beach huts were immersed in romantic lighting. Palm trees glistened through the lights, and I was fascinated by these beautiful impressions. I sat down at a free table of a beach bar and enjoyed an ice-cold Coca-Cola while I absorbed the sight. Hamburg was far behind me, and I almost forgot my dream man. The second day I spent with my bathing suit on the beach, and of course turned red like a lobster. Despite sun protection, happy, I returned back late in the evening to the hotel. The fact I actually looked like a lobster bothered me very little, because as my interior I had very little in common with ordinary Germans concerning my skin. I never sunburned. My skin was indeed red, but later it turned brown, not like other Europeans who peeled off. It bothered me much more right now that I felt thirsty, but found nothing to drink in my hotel room. So I went out again to buy a Coke somewhere. In a side street of the San Miguel, I found a wine bar selling wine and soft drinks. When I gave my order of 2 cans of Coca-Cola, the waiter asked if I wouldn't like to experiment the good Malaga wine. Before I even had a chance to answer, I had a glass of wine in front of me. I tried white initially, and then red, sweet, less sweet, and finally talked alike and entertained the Spanish waiter just as much as the other guests with my broken Spanish. to everyone's flavorful amusement. Then I staggered with my 2 cans of Coke in a bag towards the hotel, but with plenty of problem with my equilibrium. To make phone calls, I found in another small alley a locutorio, a cyber cafe with telephone booths where one could make international calls for favorable low fees. The operator looked at me and was blown away. Raymond, a Nigerian. They seemed to be everywhere. Invited me to dinner in a restaurant close by and told me liberally that this locutorio belonged to his brother Jones, who was the owner of an entire chain of these locutorios in Malaga and Torremolinos. Frankly, I voiced my surprise. And I always thought you Nigerians earn your money only with drugs and other fraud. Raymond laughed as he replied, no, some of us work quite honestly. Thinking of Victor and Roland, I conceded I also knew some of these. I asked him what the chances were to find work here in Torremolinos. He answered there was plenty of work in the sector of gastronomy, catering and hotel, but however, poorly paid. Poorly paid work. Do you intend to live in Spain? He asked hopefully. I do actually think about it, seriously, I admitted. Then you think about something you can do by your own business, such as a bar, a locutorio, or a snack bar. But of course, you have to know the language, or you will be lost here. You know what? You should meet my brother Jones. He knows all about this stuff. I wasn't in such a hurry, though, to be rushing into things. Initially, I wanted to see more of the area. Somewhere I had read something about ship tours to see dolphins. This was supposed to be in Fuengirola, wherever that was. I negotiated a flat fee with a taxi driver for taking me along the beautiful coastal road, making a detour to the marina, a beautiful place with a promenade and fancy restaurants. After about 70-kilometer drive, we reached the town of Fuengirola. The driver dropped me off at the harbor, where I immediately saw the signs for the dolphin trips and bought a ticket. Shortly after, I found myself on a ship of the smaller categories. Beside me were more German tourists on the ship. Inconspicuously, I listened to a conversation at a nearby table. Spain is the best pension schemes existing. I bought a house, renting it during the holidays, and when I retire, it has long since paid off. I will then live rent-free in paradise. It is still dirt cheap here to buy real estate. Who knows how it is when the euro comes on the market? I couldn't follow the conversation any further because a young girl who had already walked past my table on several occasions, giving me always friendly smiles, sat down opposite me, at the table on the sun deck. Are you from England? She asked in perfect English with accent. She seemed to look for entertainment. Why not? So I told her a little about myself and learned she was from France. I immediately thought of my dream man. She was the daughter of the ship owner and captain. Actually went to school in Marseille, but spent the summer with her family here in Spain. Valerie was very pleased to have someone who could speak English with her. She introduced me to her father, a very handsome and sun-tanned man in his 40s. But she took away any illusions the very next moment as she explained to me, the woman of whom you bought the ticket, that is my mother. Shame. Could have worked. We were already more than an hour on the sea when I asked cautiously, are you sure that we will see dolphins? She replied that sometimes they see them, but not always. Don't you feel like coming out on the sea again with us tonight? The ship has been chartered for a board party. I think it will be fun. Vantage I had, but I didn't want to be unnecessarily stranded in the port of Fuengirola during the night or at dawn without the opportunity to return to Torremolinos, so I declined with thanks. Of course, I saw not a single dolphin, but left the ship, having won a new friend and the warranty to come on board as often as I felt like without paying any fee. From the harbor, I walked about 500 meters to reach the beach, and this time I was smarter. Bringing my swimsuit along, spread my bath towel, took off my clothes, and jumped into the sea. Sea air makes hungry, so I headed after my sun and sea bath to a parallel road to the port, where I found, to my surprise, lots of English, Irish, and Scottish restaurants. Everywhere I heard loud noise of televisions with raucous Englishmen in front of them, following a football match on TV. Well, I was totally mistaken to believe that only Ibiza was firmly in British hands. At first I felt a strong desire to turn back again. I was finally in Spain and not in England. Looked while strolling past at the menus on the tables, and couldn't resist at sirloin steak, jack potatoes and mixed salad, payable in sterling and Spanish pesetas. The food was delicious, and soon I found myself in a conversation with Jackie, the owner of the restaurant, as she sat beside me at the table and after dinner invited me for a coffee. As fast as this, I normally never met in such a short time otherwise as many people at once. This here was exactly the life I had always wanted and imagined. I suddenly had to laugh out loud. Jackie looked at me somewhat puzzled, and so I felt obligated to inform her and initiate her into my thoughts. You know, at home I have a huge apartment with balcony, garage, with designed furniture, but there I am heartbroken. My son suffers from asthma and racist hostility. And the solution for all his problems, I'm pretty much convinced, is here, in this part of the world. Frankly, Jackie told me how she knew this feeling all too well. She had felt in England exactly the same as me in Germany, and only found happiness since she set up life here in Spain. For a long time, we sat outside in front of the restaurant and talked about God and the world, while my eyes always wandered off to the harbor, which gave by the illumination a beautiful sight. Late in the night, I arrived back at the hotel in Torremolinos and quickly fell into a deep, contented sleep. Quite late, I got up and took my time with a rich breakfast in the hotel. Then I headed, with German magazines, which were easily to buy at the kiosks, to the beach. I love to swim in the seas to enjoy the wonderful Spanish sun afterwards. In the afternoon, I dined in a pizzeria, had Spanish sangria with delicious fruits, as a side dish, a wonderful sea view. Back on the beach, I bought 2 light but very nice beach dresses for only a few pesetas, perhaps the equivalent of 2 marks, not much more, at one of the flying dealers who sold their wares on the beach. At these temperatures, nobody really needed other clothes. I planned to know the nightlife of Torremolinos for this evening. After I had showered and changed my clothes, I looked around outside of the hotel and found very close a welcoming narrow street where many small restaurants and bars were strung together. In front of Stella's International Bar I paused, thought for a moment, and then entered this cozy bar with romantic lighting and candles on the counter, which had further inside a small dance floor with a wide screen behind, showing music videos. I took a seat at the bar, where a nice little blonde behind the counter smiled at me when I asked for the list of drinks. Hey, I was child and careless, so I could beat the limits for once and ordered with a severity a pina colada. Do you want to take a sour or sweet liquor? Whispered the blonde, and explained this was usual in this bar. New guests had additional with his first order, also one free drink. The pina colada was the best since the days with Celeste, my unforgettable American neighbor, so I ordered a second soon after. After the second, I was in the right mood for the dance floor. It was played black music at this moment, which lifted my spirits even more. When I returned back to the bar, the blonde was sitting on a bar stool next to me and told me she came from Sweden. I told her I'm a German. Initially, I thought when she touched my hand it was purely accidental. But when she put her arm around my hips, I was quickly clear she had different intentions than just to lead a harmless entertainment. It was high time for me to leave the location. Tell me, are there other clubs playing black music? The message had arrived. A little disappointed, she told me, yes, on this side of the street, straight ahead, about 10 minutes walk. You're straight ahead and only a few minutes I've already known, since mostly it turns out to be a forced march. I thought to myself, paid, and went on my way. Half an hour later, and with sore feet, I wore newly purchased sandals with high heels. I stood in front of a disco, paid admission, and found out immediately this was not a black music, but a house music disco. I hate house and techno music, but I didn't care anymore because my feet were burning like fire, and from the sweet pina colada, I was thirsty like a mountain goat. I let myself down on a bar stool and ordered a Coke. I looked around me and was quite astonished. Separated by a glass wall, the other half of the disco was a swimming pool. Over there, the people were dancing to the same music, but with a difference, they did so in bathing suits and jumped into the water from the diving board in between. The idea to pack my swimsuit for the next disco visit amused me. At home, nobody will believe this story, I said to myself silently. Then suddenly, as if on command, all the waiters jumped on the top of the bar and started, under loud screams of the female guests, a striptease number. And this much less, I added to my thoughts. For this night, I decided I had seen enough and made my way back. At least I tried it, but my feet were swollen to such an extent that each step gave me hellish pain. It was enough. Spontaneously, I took off my shoes and walked barefoot. Luckily, in Torremolinos, the sidewalks are made of small, smooth paving stones, and every night swept and hosed down with water. At least I didn't run great risk stepping into pieces of glass or dog piss. Nevertheless, I reached the hotel with jet black feet. After sleeping off until just before noon, I thought about what to do with the remaining half day, resolved then to do a little browsing in the shops. First I visited Raymond in the locutorio, who greeted me so stormy that I had to pull the emergency brake. I told my brother about you, and he would like to meet you. Should I call him to see if and when he has time? One more or less Nigerian won't make a difference anymore, I replied, half joking. What made Raymond laugh heartily. He spoke with his brother and asked me for my last name, in between, and in which hotel I was staying. My brother picks you up at about 8 p.m. from your hotel. Will that suit you? Well, the beach I could forget for this day anyway, and so I bought for Michael and me some favorable clothes. Found even a pair of comfortable shoes fitting me, which in Germany was not always so easy, because I have shoe size 35 but a wide foot. At the ice cream parlor, I stopped to give me an ice cream, this time without nata, and had a coffee. The coffee here was wonderfully strong, not like the thin stuff I knew in Germany. Absolutely everything was better here than in Germany. With horror, I thought of having to return again in 2 days to Hamburg, Germany. On the way back to the hotel, I made a detour to the wine bar where the cheerful wine tasting took place, in order to buy a bottle of white Malaga wine. I would take with me to Hamburg. Exactly at 8 p.m., the receptionist called me in my room to let me know a senor waited for me in the hall. One last look in the mirror, and I was on my way down. Jones came directly towards me, and I was pleasantly surprised. Tall, acute appearance, but obviously overweight, he gave me the impression of a loving, cozy teddy bear. This impression changed dramatically when he approached me with a loud and dominant voice. He was the type tough businessman with good manners. After we had shaken hands and introduced ourselves, he suggested, "Come, my car's outside. I invite you for dinner." Typically macho, the man would allow no contradiction, but I liked him. He took me to Fuengirola, where we stopped at a Chinese restaurant. "You like Chinese?" he asked. "At least," and explained this was his favorite restaurant. I could understand why. On a long hot buffet, we could choose the delicious dishes ourselves, and this as much and as often as we wanted. The food was very good. "Raymond told me you're thinking about moving to Spain." I explained to him it was currently only a pure thought, which I had long not finished thinking about, but I liked the idea every time better. At dinner we discussed the opportunities I had here, and Jones offered me to help me as far as it lay in his possibilities. Suspicious, I asked him, "Why do you want to help me?" "Because I like you. You caught my eye and you are intelligent," was his reply. With wine and beer we sat for a long time in the cozy restaurant. Already very late in the night we returned to Torremolinos. Jones accompanied me to the hotel, and we slept together, the beginning of a long friendship. Wistfully, I spent my last day at the beach, thinking of Hamburg. I was overcome with true horror. For distraction I swam in the sea, however, my sadness remained. When would I see all my new friends here the next time? I resolved in any case to go and consult my bank. Maybe there was something to do, and they would give me a loan. My other debts were paid off since several months. This expensive folly with the apartment. With a loan, I could start in any way my own business. From swimming I was hungry and wondered where I would eat. I didn't feel no appetite for something specific, so I decided to go again, this time to the pizzeria, and ordered spaghetti. Funny, not one single time I've tried Spanish food, I thought, almost wistfully. One last time I ordered a pint of sangria and looked sadly at the romantically lit beach, the palms and the sea. How it annoyed me, this stupid habit of Germans to clap their hands in applause after the landing. Even before the plane was parked, the hand luggage boxes were torn open, merely to be the first to come out. I simply felt like crying, since we leveraged to land and dived through the clouds to have a rainy Hamburg appearing before us. Of course, I was looking forward to see Michael, but to go home I wasn't happy about it at all. There was also no reason to rejoice. The apartment was empty. In 3 days I would return to work, which was no more fun for me either. What was wrong with me? I had important functions in the company, nice colleagues with whom I had privately met from time to time. With Nicky I had visited twice a live concert of Simply Red. We were both singles and big fans of the band and the singer Mick Hucknall, with a soulful voice. But in my heart, this all meant nothing to me. "I need to get out of here. I want to emigrate," I told my psychotherapist. "I feel like someone who had been taken from his roots and just planted someplace else," I continued. After I told him in detail of Torremolinos, he worked on it to bring me back down to the bottom of the hard facts. Without capital, it is not possible to set up your own business in Spain or anywhere else. To be employed, you might earn a pittance which is too small to live off and too much to die. Under those circumstances, It is not worth it living in the most beautiful country. And this, your holiday mood, is in everyday life not available. He pointed to my responsibility for Michael, and I should not put my job on the game at today's high unemployment rate, and. At the bank it was also discouraging. We are very sorry, Mrs. Embauer. We know you are a reliable customer, but we don't provide loans for foreign real estate or for the founding of a company abroad. Michael told me in detail about the camps and began already to try and convince me to let him go next year again. Geli was less talkative about her vacation, and Sabine gave me the impression as if she would never again fly anywhere with Tom. Gambia had indeed been more than interesting. Comfortable hotels, the food was good, but the problems began already on the trip there. Tom, as a strong smoker of cigarettes and marijuana, turned Sabine half mad with his fear of flying. As smoking was prohibited already in those days on international flights, Tom wasn't able to do without it, nor did he want to. He settled to smoke secretly on the toilet, which almost brought him a disciplinary measure. In Gambia, he made quickly friends with the Gambia, even though he didn't speak English, but cannabis connect. As a gift from his new friends, he received a tin cup with a small iron frame, which together constituted a portable grill. In addition, a large hunting knife, which caused a big scandal at the airport. Tom had packed his gift in the hand luggage, what of course struck heavily in the X-ray control, and Tom was therefore almost arrested, due to carry a weapon. Sabine somehow saved the situation in broken English and saved Tom from Gambian jail, as she made clear what purpose it had with his knife. But the knife he could absolutely not carry in the hand luggage. Nevertheless, Tom refused vehemently to fly without his holy present. Ultimately, the luggage of Sabine and Tom was recalled, which led to a delayed departure, but Tom was pleased to be allowed to take his gift home. Jana had not been on vacation, instead had taken care of my flowers and the phone. My dream man had actually called once more while I was on vacation, and Jana had given him the information when I would return. And as I sat with Rosa in my designer living room, telling her about Torremolinos, the phone rang, and actually it was my dream man who called. We didn't have much to say to each other. After all, we didn't understand each other. So I suggested, for the sake of simplicity, to meet us in the Chocolate City on the following Saturday at 11 p.m. I used one of the dresses I had bought on the beach in Torremolinos. The flowing fabric was covering my curves perfectly. Makeup and hair done, I went together with Renate to the Chocolate City, where I looked around expectantly. It was already 11:15, but yet from my dream man not a trace. Men. Renate was in a very good mood since she had fallen in love once again. She now had changed her Gambia against the Nigerian. My spirits fell, however, late at night. It was almost 1 a.m. when I stood alone outside the front door and thought resignedly, this man is simply too beautiful to be true. Renate was looking for me at the door and mumbled, "My goodness, don't go spoiling the night for us with your bad mood and your long face." Then a taxi suddenly stopped in front of the door, and out got him. Fascinated, I stood rooted, looking at him as he came towards me, beaming and giving me a kiss on the cheek. "Come," he said, pointing to the entrance. Renate next to me rolled her eyes and muttered, "Well, thank God the night is saved." Proudly, I told the cashier this was my boyfriend, and therefore he was admitted free. The rest of the night we were inseparable, and spent the most time on the dance floor. I could hardly believe my luck. He didn't only look smashing, but obviously put a lot of emphasis on body care. Sweat smell was an unbearable issue for me. His scent, however, was staggering. He used Armani perfume. At the bar, he ordered for me and Renate champagne, and he himself toasted with a glass of mineral water. Almost shyly, he took my hand, and when we kissed the first time, I forgot everything around me. There was only Saidu, so his name. I was hopelessly in love, and wanted this man all for me, forever. I remembered the text of the music Lady Marmalade of La Belle. Of course I knew what those words meant. It was pretty much the only thing I could think in French, and I whispered in his ear, "Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir?" Surprised, he looked at me, laughed, and replied, "Oui, oui, oui." Soon after, we left hand in hand and in love the Chocolate City. Renate would spend the night with her boyfriend and remain still while we took advantage of every red traffic light face to kiss us. Never had I met a man so tenderly and sensually as Saidu. He was built quite strong, and his body was beautiful and muscular. His large but gentle hands tenderly touched my body while he looked me deep in my eyes, kissed me, played around with his tongue at my neck, ears, armpits, and my breasts. It was just incredible how much intensive I could feel the love with him. Saidu whispered softly tender words in my ear while we were making love. For hours we made love, while we alternately caressed our bodies with kisses until we fell asleep, exhausted, arm in arm. In between we woke up to make love again, making love once more at noontime, and when we came together to our highlights, my tears ran, without me wanting it, over my face, tears of happiness. Astonished, Saidu looked at me and asked, "Why?" How should I have explained it to him? I laughed, kissed him, and went to take a shower. During the joint breakfast, Saidu searched for words to explain to me he wanted to go home, to shower, and change clothes. I did understand as he pointed to his watch to suggest that he would be back by 4 p.m. He ran his fingers over the table to make me understand he wanted to go for a walk with me. I had to laugh. Michael had gone with Daryl, Jens and Rosa to an amusement park, and would not return before 10 o'clock, and so I had all the time in the world for Saidu. When I was alone, I called Renate to tell her about my heavenly but sleepless night, and that I was madly in love. "And how do you talk with each other?" she asked, amused. "Body language," I answered. "And how long do you think this is going to function?" she asked, laughing out loud, or rather, she was neighing like a horse. Renate was so right. I wanted this man, with all the consequences, but to talk to each other, I supposed, in some way, belonged to it. Jana had offered me her German-French dictionary when I needed it. It was an offer made half in jest, but now I needed it and took it from her shelf. Right on time, at 4, Saidu stood with his beaming smile back at my door, took me in his arms, and kissed me as tenderly as before. We went out to Hamburg-Blankenese to walk along the Elbe. Then we sat in a garden cafe. From my pocket I took out the dictionary and put it promising on the table. Laughing, Saidu reached into his pocket and pulled out a mini dictionary. So we sat there, each one with a dictionary. I tried to explain that I was very serious about him and already knew he was the man with whom I wanted to stay together. But under these circumstances, it was virtually impossible. He seemed to understand what I was trying to say, as he nodded in agreement. I made clear to him that I wished he learned German. By passing through many pages and searching for words in his book, I learned, due to his work, he found no time to take a language course. I considered briefly and told him than my decision to teach him German. I would give him proper lessons in the evening, after work. He enthusiastically accepted my proposal, but I was interested why a man like him was alone. Again, with much foliage in the dictionary, he explained to me he had not been long in Germany, already had a brief relationship with a woman, but had terminated. I made to both of us the accusation we were very careless to make love unprotected. The word AIDS he understood, and conceded he had not a single moment thought of condoms in the previous night. However, normally he would protect himself. I shouldn't worry, he had no AIDS. I also learned he came from the Ivory Coast and had requested here in Germany for asylum. Until now, the application had not yet been decided. Again and again the same story, but I didn't want to think about it, as blinded by love as I was. Finally, we made our way back. I drove him to his place, in an asylum home in Hamburg, Ostdorf, where he stayed in a very cozy, furnished, clean room, almost for himself, because his roommate was staying most of the time with his girlfriend. I pointed to the prayer rug hanging on the wall. Saidu was a Muslim, what bothered me very little, but it explained why he didn't drink alcohol. With a long, intimate kiss, we said goodbye. I asked him to give me 2 days for preparing the German lessons for him. Michael, I have a new boyfriend. Oh yeah? Mom, I even went on the roller coaster. You know you're still too young for that. I want you to meet Saidu. He will come to us on Wednesday night. I'm very much in love. That's cool. Where does he come from? Jens joined me. Where has Jens joined you? He comes from the Ivory Coast, neighboring country of Ghana. On the roller coaster, Jens joined me. You are not listening to me. On Wednesday? Okay, I'll have a look at him. I started directly with the preparation of the German lessons. Initially sought out the most important vocabulary in the dictionary and wrote it in German and French on a worksheet. What are you doing there? Asked Michael. Saidu must learn German. Until now, he speaks only French. Holy shit, this can indeed be funny. And now you want to teach him German? Michael found himself already in the midst of comedy. Jana came back after her weekend out. Hi, how are you two? What are you doing? Before I could answer her, Michael went ahead of me, and this in a way she laughed also now. It seems indeed to be serious with you, eh? She assumed half inquiringly. On Monday I whistled a cheerful good morning to my colleagues, who regarded me as if they saw me the first time, but as time went on they were getting used to my constant good mood. I got hold of school supplies, German grammar, texts for reading practice, text with gaps, etc. Until late at night I prepared everything, and on Wednesday I was ready. I was very excited how Michael would react to Saidu, because in the case Michael didn't like him, it would have been unthinkable for me to turn this into a serious relationship. But my concerns were completely unfounded. Initially, there was a restrained hello by Michael, as he watched Saidu carefully but attentive. He's tall now, he stated, and the same moment began to laugh. You're going to climb on a chair now every time you want to kiss him? Playfully, I raised my hand as if I would beat him, but Michael knew this was only fun. I also had to laugh, and Saidu, who didn't quite understand why, joined us with laughter. I could see Michael was satisfied, and did like Saidu. Nevertheless, he retreated into his room to busy himself with the PlayStation. Saidu, curious about what Michael was doing there, now also disappeared for the next hours. Didn't bother me because I was preparing our dinner. Until I had this done, Michael and Saidu were already best friends, despite the language barrier. Not only the PlayStation encouraged this, because Saidu discovered Michael's expensive football and began to kick, and this he did with a skill it impressed Michael. The two found their own way of communicating, and Michael told Saidu he played no longer in a club, but just for fun. Saidu wanted to see how Michael was playing football, and so they disappeared. Instead of learning German, Saidu was playing football outside with Michael. At first I was not very enthusiastic, but when the two returned with smiling faces, Saidu holding in a friendly manner his arm around Michael's shoulders, I was reconciled. Michael exclaimed enthusiastically, "Saidu's a cool guy, I like him." Thus I knew now nothing would stand in the way of our love. In the following weeks, Saidu learned his lessons with enthusiasm, practiced vocals, read texts, formed sentences, put in missing words into the text with the gaps. He understood very quickly, and with an ease it was real fun to give him language lessons, and to notice his vocabulary. His fluency were better and larger by the day. We laughed much while doing this, especially when I made him write sentences and he wrote some funny things. When I moved the lessons in his room, because he couldn't always make it due to his work, to come to me, it was often difficult though, because he exploited the fact that we were alone, and then had everything else in mind than to learn. But I couldn't resist either. After a month, we were already able to communicate wonderful in German language. When I gave him the task, without an example, to write a sentence with a verb and change it in the future version, he wrote without hesitation, "I love Rita and will always love her." Astonished, I looked at him and asked him, "You know what this means, your writing?" Deeply he looked me in the eye and replied gravely, "Oui, je t'aime, mon amour." I was floating in seventh heaven, and Saidu did everything to keep it that way. He brought me flowers, went shopping for us, called me on the phone during his breaks at my working place, and very soon practically lived with us. The passion we felt for each other grew daily, and we made love every day, up to 3 times. When he went to his football club on Saturdays for training, he now took Michael more frequently. If they didn't play football, we all went swimming or made other trips. The relationship with Saidu brought me also closer again with Michael. Between the 3 of us was no jealousy. Michael not only accepted Saidu, he concluded him in his heart and admired him. He even went so far that he joined Saidu, kneeling on the ground and praying. All my friends knew and liked Saidu. If we were guests at Sabina or Rosa, Saidu was always polite and talkative, but always showed his affection by touching me. At home he was less restrained. Even if I had a visitor, then he took me in his arms and kissed me deeply and passionately when he felt like it. My goodness, love must be beautiful. One can actually get envious, Renate joked often. But he strictly respected Michael's presence and wouldn't kiss me if Michael was around, but put his arm around me or made other loving gestures, not more. The first meeting with Kathy I awaited suspiciously. The sting of the past sat still quite deep in the interior. I watched exactly Saidu's reaction, but he acted as impartial and polite towards Kathy as he did this with my friends. Nothing more, nothing less. Only for Marcus he showed special interest, and Marcus liked him right away. Everything was perfect. I was happy like never before, having actually found my dream man. Spain had been long since forgotten. My job, where I performed maximum accomplishment now, I enjoyed again, though sometimes I was dead tired because we hardly slept at night. Even I liked the city of Hamburg much better. Yes, with Saidu by my side, I could live well here and grow old. The warning of my psychotherapist I hid in the wind. I was even angry that he always tried to spoil everything for me. Be careful. I begrudge you for your happiness, but think about it once. Why such a handsome tall man is with you if he could have any other woman? Don't get me wrong, you are a pretty little woman, but you are extremely overweight, and compared with this 1 meter 90 tall man, you are outstanding small. It hurt me very much what he said. My weight should not be the problem, for up to the end of this year I lost 20 kilograms. At the beginning of our relationship, a few pounds had already gone, not only on my side, but also for Saidu. His co-workers made jokes and told him he may have too much sex, and therefore lost weight. They told him he should do this a bit less restrictive, or he would be soon only skin and bones. Nikki, my colleague, had lost very much weight, as I noticed. How did you just manage this? I asked her one day, interested. I am taking pills, a new drug which not only causes a sensation of fullness in the stomach, but also a psychological effect on the brain, so you don't feel even the slightest hunger or appetite, such as craving for chocolate. I also have found me at the flea market a home stepper. Knew those things are too expensive. Every night I do half-hour permanent exercise. This is worth it a great deal. If you want, I'll get you such a stepper as well. Of course I wanted, and also got me the tablets. 100 marks for a monthly supply. It was worth it for me. I took one tablet every day, and after only a few days actually felt the effect. I virtually didn't feel hungry anymore. As Nikki brought me the stepper, I also began each evening half, sometimes 1 hour, to move my legs, up and down, like running. But with the difference, the heavy device was under a spring tension, so that each step could only be carried out under enormous effort. This trained and straightened legs, stomach, and buttocks. Saidu initially ridiculed the whole thing, but soon found differences not only visually, but also when he touched me. When the tablet pack was used up, I trusted myself well enough to go without it, and changed my diet from the ground. For me it was nothing but salads, pure unsweetened yogurt with fresh fruit, light drinks, and tea with diet sweetener. Now and then I allowed myself a piece of lean meat from cattle or poultry. Pork had been exiled from my kitchen since I was together with Saidu. For years I toyed with the idea to have Michael circumcised, not for religious reasons, but because of hygiene and aesthetics. The decision, though, was for me alone just too hard to make, so I had pushed it constantly ahead of me. After all, it was an operation which meant risk. I also didn't want to give my beloved son unnecessary suffering. Kathy and Mark had it done with Marcus immediately after birth. At the time when Michael was born, I hadn't thought about it yet, and Robert much less. The year before Kadriya and Ahmed had their son Halil circumcised, according to Muslim custom, at the age of 7 years, I was invited for the celebration of the circumcision, which was organized like other organized weddings. Ahmed paid so much for the celebration, he could have bought a new small car for the money. But I couldn't really identify myself with it and made up an excuse not to go. For this, I was later punished by having to watch the 4-hour video of the ceremony. Now I was the one asking Kadriya for advice, and learned a lot about the religious ceremony of circumcision. Halil was very proud, because he was now on the way to becoming a man. He also received a fortune of money gifts on the ceremony. Kadriya described to me how the surgery would be carried out, quickly and easily with a scalpel, but all my body hair stood up on end when I listened. She added there was a new method of removing the foreskin was removed by laser. She offered me the addresses of the medics to find out who applied this method. I discussed the whole thing with Saidu, who as Muslim logically was totally for the decision to have it done to Michael. On the other hand, did he show full understanding for some of my fears? Since I didn't grow up with this tradition, Saidu gave me his promise of support in every way, should I decide to do so. So we talked about the topic with Michael, who reacted with horror. "I'm not letting anybody cutting about on my penis." We showed him the penis of Marcus, but in the end it was Halil who convinced Michael. "This is easier and done faster than going to the dentist." Quite naturally, we couldn't take Michael's fears completely, neither mine. With horror he had indulged the preliminary examination, and I couldn't close my eyes the night before the surgery. Saidu could not calm me in this case, nor prevent that I ran up and down in the room for hours. In the morning we went in company of Kadria and Halil to the clinic. Saidu was already working, but had promised to be there in time at 10 a.m., the scheduled time for the surgery. He didn't want or couldn't take off the entire day. Who was more nervous and anxious, Michael or I, was not quite clear, but we both were shaking. Shortly before Michael had the local anesthetic, he disappeared together with Halil to the toilet, while Kadria held my hand reassuringly as Saidu rushed in. "Am I too late? Where's Michael?" He was just coming back at this moment and was visibly relieved to see Saidu, flying directly into his arms. But then he reported he had looked at Halil's penis and was satisfied of what he saw. Then our close society was established in the treatment room. Michael received the order directly to lay down on the operating table. Halil and Kadria stood on one side, me on the other. Saidu stood at the head and lovingly caressed Michael's face and hair, while talking to him low and reassuringly. Kadria and I held his hands when he received the anesthetic. Although I looked away, I knew it was painful. I already had tears in my eyes. Michael screamed in fear and pain until the anesthesia began to work, which was quite soon. Saidu now held Michael's face in his hands, so Michael could not see what the doctor was doing. He began his work with a laser stick, and I had to turn away. Although Michael couldn't feel nothing now, he whimpered in fear. Saidu talked to him incessantly softly. In this moment, I didn't only feel the pain I shared with Michael, but also the boundless love and gratitude for Saidu. My eyes wandered back to the doctor with the laser stick, and when I saw blood on Michael's penis, I was about to faint. Kadria, neither taking her eyes off Michael, nor did she leave me out of sight, noticed this, let go of Michael's hand, ran around the operating table to catch me before I fell. A nurse was already in the process to bandage when I felt a little better, but I barely got by when she explained how I had to change it. At home, Michael was in for a big surprise. According to Muslim tradition of circumcision, I had bought him as gift a new PlayStation game. But that Kadria had especially baked a cake for this day, I didn't even know. Neither that Saidu surprised Michael with gifts also, in honor of his big day. Kadria dressed Michael the regalia of Halil, and we celebrated a real little circumcision. Later in the evening, Ahmed joined us and handed Michael 50 marks in an envelope. Despite all the joy, Michael suffered. Still exhausted from the procedure and the mental strain by a big problem. He had to pee, but didn't dare. He also said nothing until it was almost too late. I noticed his face was very tense, and him whispering something to Halil. Both then ran into the bathroom, but Halil alone couldn't lose the bandage, so he called his mother. We both stormed into the bathroom together, where Michael was red-faced, stumping from one foot to the other, and cried in despair, "I need to pee!" Immediately, Kadriya dispatched quickly the top part of the bandage. With the result, we all got sprayed from the shot that came out with all violence. This drama was repeated several more times, and of course was also painful because the urine was burning in the wound. During the first days, I regretted my decision. When I initially saw Michael suffer like this, I was very hurt when Michael repeatedly asked accusingly, "Mom, why did you do this?" Or when he accused me, "Because of you, my pee-man is broken now." I was seriously afraid our intimate relationship would be destroyed. Michael wouldn't let me come close to the bandage, and the changing of it was only done by Kadriya. But she just as well as Saidu were encouraging Michael and me that in a few days everything would be over. In fact, Michael was like before the surgery when the bandage finally was removed completely. His only concern now was a small kink formed in the penis. But Halil reassured him this would soon be gone, and Michael then would have a well-formed, beautiful penis. So it was, and to my relief, the subject was soon forgotten. In addition to my extreme weight loss, at the beginning of the year 1999, I had reached the proud size of 36. I changed in many other respects, too. Initially, I wasn't even aware of it. Since Saidu, as a Muslim, drank absolutely no alcohol, I didn't touch no drop of alcohol anymore. I smoked only very little, practically only from time to time at work. For in the house, Saidu didn't like the smell of cigarette smoke at all. I wouldn't kiss me, or reluctantly, if I smoked. My hair was now grown shoulder length, and I had dyed it a warm brown tone, so it gently caressed my face contours. I started to put much more value on good clothes. I often heard that I looked like mid-20s. Actually, I liked what I saw in the mirror when I smiled at a cute small face. Saidu didn't only notice these changes, he was completely carried away. If he might, previously, only was having the intention to find a fool to get married and stay in Germany, he was now totally crazy about me. Our passion was not getting less. It was becoming rather more. When he came home from work and Michael wasn't present, we made love on the couch, on the carpet, on a chair, or over the table. It was a bright madness between us. In bed, we needed only to touch each other, and already flared again this limitless lust between the two of us. At the beginning of our relationship, I still accompanied Saidu every weekend to dance, but I soon lost interest. My confidence in him was now grown, so I easily let him go alone. Mon amour, I only go to dance, nothing more. You know that I love music and dancing. Then I come back to you. He urged me again and again at first when I was having my doubts. You met me while going out for dancing. Already forgot? I fought many times when I asked him to remain as an exception one Saturday at home. I'm not interested in those women there in the disco. You're the only woman who makes me happy, Chérie. He swore. I believed him and let him go. And if I was overcome with doubts, I tried to convince myself I would be the first to know if he would start anything with another woman in the Chocolate City. Everyone knew us and knew we were a couple. Saidu indeed came regularly and reliably each time between 4 and 6 in the morning back home to me to take me in his arms to make love to me with a passion that seemed to get stronger each time. He was always anxious to make me happy, and to satisfy me in every possible way. The more we fell into this crazy passion, all the more showed Saidu jealousy and became very possessive. He shouted at Victor, with whom I had remained in friendly contact by telephone. He shouldn't have to call me any more, and then put angry the phone down. Alarmed over this violent reaction I never saw on him, I was about to ask him why he did it when the phone rang again. I quickly jumped forward and took the phone. Again it was Victor. Now, insecure and nervous, I asked him not to call me any more. Affected, Victor replied, "Rita, you must not allow any man destroying our friendship. I'm seriously worried about you." Saidu looked at me with a grim face, and so I merely said, "Ciao, Victor." Saidu was not violent, of this I was sure, but it impacted me deeply to see him so annoyed. In order to avoid this one more time, I wrote in precaution an email to Jones. He and Raymond shouldn't call me no more. Explained my husband wouldn't like it. I also let him know I really had no longer the intention to come to Spain. As much as Saidu was becoming jealous, as much was I ready to do anything not to lose him. Before I went to sleep at night in his arms, my last thought was often I couldn't live without Saidu anymore. I also reacted accordingly hysterically to any potential threat of female competition. One Saturday night, Saidu begged me once again to go out with him. "Let's go to Kiteke. It is an African disco where music of my home country is played, among other music, but also R&B. I had never been before in this club and found it very unappealing. What I saw shocked me. Very young African boys involved themselves with old, ugly and fat women who elsewhere wouldn't find nothing and no one anymore. However, these women held a decisive trump card, the entry ticket for the right of abode or residence permits in Germany. And for this effort, these young men prostituted themselves, some not older than 17 or 18 years old. I remembered what my therapist told me, but I was now worlds apart from this category, and an ugly woman I had never been. Now I belonged rather to the kind who could have every man, African or not. Besides, I already had taken from Saidu any eventual illusion in the respect of marriage intentions. He knew I was married to Geraldo, and also that I didn't even think in my dreams, at least not yet, to get a divorce and give up my tax allowance. Saidu was visibly proud of me, and was always happy to show with me. However, I was disgusted by this club, and told him so, irritated. I didn't even have an explanation why all this year was getting so close to me, and my mood was completely on point zero, when an attractive woman appeared at the bar, sat next to Saidu, and immediately began a conversation with him. Saidu responded to it, smiled his charming smile, while I was boiling inside with anger. When he finally remembered I indeed still existed, and looked in my direction, he looked at a hostile face. "What's merely the matter with you this evening?" he asked, when I hissed at him. "You know how you get home, right? I can't stand it here, and I suppose I'm disturbing." I jumped off the bar stool and was about to leave, as Saidu held my arm, pulled me into his arms, kissed me without taking any more notice of the other woman. "Let us dance together at least once, mon amour. You know how I love to dance with you. Afterwards we go home." Reluctantly and without enthusiasm, I let Saidu lead me to the dance floor, and danced mechanically, without any feeling for the music in Saidu's arms. This woman, who was now also on the dance floor with a dance partner, but deliberately jostled at Saidu while dancing. I exploded, tore myself away from Saidu to topple onto this woman. With his long arms, Saidu grabbed me, held me, and led me out the door, where I finally got a hysterical crying fit. So this is how it looks like if you go out alone every Saturday? Saidu made desperate attempts to explain to me that before we were a couple, a few times he had been in a caretaker and knew this woman, slightly of those times. He had danced with her a couple of times, but nothing ever happened. Uncontrollably, I shouted at him. I don't believe a word. What would have happened if I wasn't here tonight? Nothing, protested Saidu over and over again. This woman means nothing to me. Je t'aime, mon amour. Nevertheless, I couldn't stop sobbing, and all attempts Saidu's to calm me failed. At home, I was still crying. Saidu held me in his arms and whispered again, I love only you, mon amour. Some time later, similar happened, and it almost cost me the friendship to Renate, who already felt, like all my other friends, shamefully neglected by me, and therefore found a new companion to go out with. On a very rare visit to the Chocolate City, I was initially pleased to see Renate again, but then she introduced me to a new friend I didn't like at first glance. Dressed in a miniskirt, which could have rather be described as a belt, boots and gaudy makeup, she fitted better at the corner of the Reeperbahn than in a disco. Arrogant, I looked her up and down. Where did you find that one? I grumbled to Renate, who replied, laughing, Oh, Manuela is very funny. Funny I couldn't find at all how she adored Saidu. He, however, didn't pay any additional attention to her, apart from the normal greeting, until he went to the dance floor. I stayed with Renate and invited her for the next day with her boyfriend to visit us. When I looked in Saidu's direction, I saw how this Manuela danced in front of him while beaming up at him, which he returned with a smile. She won't snatch your Saidu from you, don't you worry, Renate laughed, as she noticed my gaze. Just do me a favor and don't bring her whenever we meet. I don't like her, I growled, left Renate and aimed towards the dance floor, squeezed myself between Saidu and this Manuela, and began to move sensuously to the music, when Saidu took me in his arms to dance with me, his body grinding on mine, without taking further notice of this Manuela. Whenever Saidu and I danced together, it crackled between us with erotic high voltage when our bodies touched. This time I controlled my inner rage. Renate and her boyfriend had followed my invitation, and we were sitting cozy at the dinner table, talking. Saidu held his arms around me and showed me again and again his affection, as he tenderly took my hand to his mouth to kiss it, or giving me affectionate kisses on the neck. Unexpectedly, the doorbell rang. We looked at us, surprised, because we actually didn't expect no one else. In principle, everybody announced a visit by phone. Saidu got up to open the door. I didn't believe my eyes when this Manuela came rustling into the living room to greet me and Renate, as well as her boyfriend effusively like old friends. Oh, I eventually found the right address. Nice place you have here, and what great furniture. Petrified, I got up and demanded Renate in Michael's room. Didn't I tell you I didn't want to see this bitch, neither here nor anywhere else again? What number is this you're drawing here? I thought we were friends. Renate behaved as if she was shocked. I swear, I didn't tell her where you live. Oh, stop it. My address is not written in the newspaper, neither in the phone book. There you wouldn't even find my number. Rita, I told her we were coming to visit you today, whereupon she asked me where you live. I told her you live in Holstenring, but I swear I didn't give her the number. She told me only she knows the Holstenring, but that she intended to come here, I had no idea. Please believe me. I don't believe a word. I'm sorry, I said contemptuously, and left her behind. Back in the living room, I saw exactly what I expected. She was sitting on my seat next to Saidu and gave the solo entertainer for the two men who seemed to amuse themselves well. This bitch would go over corpses to get a guy she liked. Renata sat down next to her boyfriend and seemed very concerned. I sat on the fifth chair opposite of Saido. The atmosphere was charged heavy as lead. While Renata talked quietly with her boyfriend, this Manuela was talking animated to Saido about music. I could see how interested he looked at her. This was enough. Pissed off, I got up and told Renata and her boyfriend to leave and to take her friend with her at the same time. This one turned to me with the words, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I have disturbed your little party. I didn't think absolutely nothing by coming here," and addressed to Saido, "We are sure going to meet in the Chocolate City, no?" "Get out," I snapped at her. Renata's boyfriend looked very upset, but he understood why I was so angry. While I moved towards the door, I just said to him, "I'm sorry, but this is not against you." In response, he patted me on the shoulder. As the door closed behind the three, I turned to Saido and said dangerously softly, "If you go Saturday night to the Chocolate City, you can pack your things before." Unbelievably, Saido stared at me without being aware of what he should have done wrong, while I grew into an uncontrollable rage and shouted at him he had provoked this situation, even went so far as to accuse him it was him who gave her my address, although it was complete nonsense. Clearly, Saido would never have done such a thing, but I wasn't thinking clear and rational, instead broke down again in a hysterical crying fit. Only after hours, Saido managed to calm me, held me in his arms, made love to me tenderly and passionately, caressed me and whispered again and again in my ear, je t'aime, mon amour, mon chéri. I was still crying softly and whimpered, "Saido, I'm so afraid of you leaving me. Please, never leave me. I can't live without you." "I will never leave you, mon chéri." Saido swore. For months, I didn't hear or see anything of Renata. With Gailey, I also put the friendship at risk. She went out very rarely now, was very depressed, and would have probably needed me. Her boyfriend Amado ran the risk of being deported. The only solution was marriage or a child. But Gailey wanted neither the one nor the other. "But you love Madhu. Why don't you marry him?" I asked her. "Rita, they are all the same. If I married him and he gets his residence permit, then that's it. I want things to stay as they are. Just take your example. Saidu really loves you because he knows he can't marry you. You're already together for a year. Time he would have lost if he was really trying just to find someone to marry. The other choice, a child of Madhu, I don't even want to take it in consideration. Neither of him nor from anyone else. As educator, I have all day to do with kids. I like it, but I don't want children of my own." For me, it did not quite make sense that she loved Madhu, didn't want to lose him, but was not willing to compromise. Didn't she see she would lose him in any case if she didn't help him? A few days later, Saidu was playing with my body, exciting me, as every night, with kisses and caressing me affectionate with his hands, and I was long been ready and willing to feel him inside me when the phone rang. First we ignored it, but it wouldn't stop ringing, so I picked up the receiver. It was Gailey. Sobbing, she reported that Madhu had impregnated another woman. While Gailey distributed all her grief over the phone, Saidu wouldn't even think of giving up caressing my body. With difficulty, I controlled myself and tried hard to listen to Gailey. Saidu knew exactly what he did and grinned mischievously. A lustful moan slipped out of my mouth, which made Gailey shout angrily into the phone, "I need someone to talk to, and you are banging there. Thanks, I can do without that." With this, She hung up. Saito had just been waiting for this moment.